Hello, I'm Jack Rickard with EVTV. This is my Busch assistant, Mr. Richard Finchie. How are you, Richard?
Actually, I've had a rough week, Jack. It's been not so good a week.
I've had rough weeks.
Well, let me tell you how rough it was. You know,
How rough was
it was rough. I had to call Tesla for you.
Did you?
Yes, and I got dished by a Tesla rep. And here's how the call went. I called and said, I'm checking on Mr. Rickard's Tesla order. And here's his order number and the information. And he goes, well, we can just confirm that you have an order and everything. And I said, well, we're here at EVTV and we would like to talk to you a little more about Tesla, maybe being at our show or communicating with us. And he goes, well, that would be such and such communication director. I said, oh, excuse me, let me get a pen because I didn't quite catch the name and I want to write it down. He came back and goes, I cannot tell you her name. So he said, I'm not allowed to give out people's names in Tesla. So I said, you're kidding me. I thought he was actually pranking me. And so this went on a little bit, and they do not give out the names of the communication people to other communication folks. And then, of course, I believe they followed up the call with a contact to you. Is that not correct?
They called me and wanted to know if I knew a Rickard Fleetgate.
Yeah.
Which was a little disconcerting.
It was, yes.
But I had kind of the same conversation with the same. Apparently, Tesloids now have no names.
You can't find a name there. That is correct.
But I did kind of find out that with number 2873, we're talking the last week of December or sometime early in 2013.
Well,
he was a little vague about that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, if they were going to get 5,000 cars built, and I'm 2873 by the end of the year,
that's a lot of cars to be building.
and it'd either be the last week of December,
I don't know,
or
right
sometime in January.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to make it.
I don't think so either. But it was
It's put me off on a tirade. I think we're going to cancel our order. And by all accounts, it's a good car. Of course,
you've got plenty of
cars,
cars,
good cars around here that are all electric. They kind of strung us along on the matter of appearing at the show. I understand they have some other problems, but I've been giving it some thought, and I think there's some other problems here too. 49% of their stock is sold short.
Yeah.
And I was really getting kind of breathy over them pulling this off. I think the June shipping is near enough a fraud, just a scam. They've shipped a few cars. I hear they've got 100 out already, but they're not going to make half, a little over half. I'd be 2,873.
Yeah, your number too. That's that's an easy number to remember.
5,000 by the end of the year.
That's a lot.
Why
of
would
parts.
it be the last week in December or the first
Right.
week? But it brings up another matter, and I wrote about this. It gave me quite a little editorial for our EVCon book.
Yes.
Did you read that?
I haven't got to that particular section yet. No, sir.
Yeah, it's basically the world to me is, and this will explain a lot of things about what we do and why we do them, and why we kind of believe in our viewers when nobody else really does. I have been observing technology for 40 years now, and I've followed it very closely. And every single innovation in technology has been one of two sources. The first source is a guy in his garage.
Absolutely. Yes.
The second source would be
that.
two guys
in one
garage.
Exactly.
And this comes up over and over and over. So I went to trying to find an example of a large corporation that wasn't started by either one or two guys in his garage. Yes. And they don't exist. There is no such thing. General Electric Thomas Edison.
Ford was Ford.
Henry Ford. The innovators are always individuals with everybody on the planet telling them they can't do it.
Yes.
And then so why do you have corporations? Well, if you have two guys in a garage, they can make 10 of something.
Yes.
They might be able to make 100 of something, but they can't make 1,000,000 of anything.
That's correct. Yes.
If they stay up all night, it doesn't work.
That's exactly. Yeah.
So you have to build this large, clunky organization to scale things. And that's very fortunate for the rest of the population because that provides the jobs.
That's the way it works.
I don't think they
the American way.
understand this in Washington. The whole Democratic thing is gotten where it's chasing its own tail over this trickle-down thing. It's not a trickle-down thing. It's don't kill the golden goose that lays the eggs. If you make it where the two guys in the garage can't get started, you're not going to have any big corporations hiring hundreds of thousands of people.
Well, I have an anecdotal subject matter for that particular point, which is they are now trying to have a petition to extend the tax incentive to the plug-in conversions.
Yes.
So the guys working in the garage can get a tax incentive. However, here's the anecdotal addition. Here's the website, petitions.White House Gov petitions. We should support OEM and aftermarket plug-in vehicles, same tax incentives, It keeps going. So that's .com. It's about 34 words to get a petition to the government to try to get a tax incentive to help people that are working on their conversions on their cars.
They don't need a tax incentive, and I know everybody in the DIY community likes this idea, and they're all trying to get me to help them promote it, and I don't even care. It's just stay out of their way.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't block the driveway to the garage.
That's right.
That's all
guys
you gotta
are going to do. That's right. Absolutely.
And then I came across a thing about the iPad. Here's the iPad. And it was saying that there's nothing new about it. And they're right. This tablet computer, this smartphone, the iPhone, they've sold hundreds of millions.
Yes, they have.
They have changed life. This is going to totally destroy the personal computer. There'll be a few old codgers like me with them that are producing something because I edit video.
But you're right.
Or on AutoCAD, there'll still be workstations. But for personal use, you have this tablet and you have this phone. It has changed life.
You're exactly right. And I cannot get mine back from my wife. She took it and is not giving it back.
Well, there's an interesting thing about this. A guy named Alan Kay described a thing called a Dynabook in 1967. He went to work for the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, Park, and they actually built a prototype in 1972. Xerox and Apple briefly got in bed together.
I remember that in the movie.
Kind of did an investment. And Steve Jobs went in and saw all this then. Even the name, the iPad, Compaq had and they called them personal digital assistants. It was a
I remember that.
device. It was called the iPac.
Yep.
And so none of this and none about it is really original. All the pieces have been laying around there forever. Touch, gestures, voice, input. None of this is new. That does not detract from what the guy did. That it's not entirely original is not the point. You couldn't sell a Dynabook. It was too expensive. The iPac and the Palm Pilot were niche products. A few people bought them, but they never did catch on. He took all the pieces and put them in a design that the design itself becomes design.
That's yes.
And all of a sudden you pick it up, and as soon as you do, you want one.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yes.
And they've sold hundreds of millions of them. What is different about this than the Dynabook or the iPack or the Palm Pilot or whatever? Well, the adherents could go on ad nauseum. Inherently nothing.
The same programs, it does the same functions. Yep.
They got the right components and the right functions. Kind of came together, kind of like video editing has in the last 4 or 5 years, where despite having all the pieces, it really didn't work. But it took one guy to put them together in the right combination to make it work. And as soon as he did, it worked. Now, we've had electric cars since the 1830s, Richard.
I know that.
We've had motors, we've had wheels, we've had batteries, we've had controllers. All the pieces are laying around. Right today, General Motors is inordinately pleased because they sold 2,850 volts.
That is correct.
In a month where they sold 25,000 cruises. And from 50 yards, you can't tell the difference between the two cars.
Yep.
Now, so where does this all lead? Did you know that Steve Jobs had some other inventions? He did the Macintosh, and the first Macintosh failed horribly in the market at $2,500. He had the Lisa, which was kind of cool. It was $10,000.
That one I don't remember, but anyhow, I missed that one somewhere.
He got kicked out of Apple. And went and started a company that had a cube computer that was so sexy, I did want one. But it was $10,000. It was really cool. A lot of it went back in the Macintosh when he went back to Apple. And when he went back to Apple, the big corporation was about to not make payroll. That's why they begged him to come back.
Yeah, I remember that.
Stock was down around $8 a share. And he came back, and they introduced the iPod, and then the iPhone, and then the iPad. The next computer, the Cube, was $10,000. I just couldn't afford one.
Yep, you're right. Next.
What do you think the response to the iPad would have been at $10,000 a copy?
Not very many.
So we were not going to sell very many of those. How about the iPhone? Now, it's a really nice phone, $10,000. What do you think?
No. I
No?
wouldn't put 10,000 in my, no.
But you have one, right?
Yes, I do.
I have one.
I know.
Do you know anybody that doesn't have one now?
No.
But nobody paid $10,000 for it.
No. The configuration?
I think Elon Musk is a brilliant guy, and I think the Tesla Model S is a beautiful car. At $100,000,
That's a lot of money.
if I got a gag, it's a gagger.
It's a gagger, yes. Yes. I agree. I understand completely.
So it's not just that I'm talking to morons at Tesla, which a year ago when you called, you at least talked to some pretty intelligent people. But it goes beyond, and it's not just because they've missed a date or because they kind of strung us along on
The car day.
convention and the delivery there, and then that didn't happen. When I sit down and think about it, how bad do I want a car for $100,000?
Exactly.
Now, I want the car.
Well, there may be another one that comes in 2 years. I mean, there are other choices that will occur.
It's a Lisa. It's a Next. It's a cool thing.
Yep, you're right.
But we're not there. And so how do we get there? You know, I don't know. But I kind of do know.
I kind of do too. I think it has something to do with what we looked at a couple weeks ago in the smaller batteries, but that's just
I think it
my
has
instinct.
something to do with our viewers. We don't
You're
know
right.
which one.
Exactly.
But it's going to be some clown in a garage, and so it has to have all the right pieces, and all the right functions. But it also has to be a value proposition that we find plausible.
Exactly. Yes.
Now, $600 or $700 for a smartphone is plausible. It's not pleasant. It's overpriced, but I paid it.
I paid it too. Yeah.
Now they're a couple $100, but I'm an early adopter.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's
and the same with the iPad. On introduction, they're kind of pricey, but I'll pay it. Do I really want to be an early adopter at $100,000? They were talking $55,000, but the car I configured on their website got to $100,000 very quickly. You know, you can do a lot still today with $100,000.
Yes, I'm sure you could. Yes, yeah. You're right. Yes, especially if you build cars, convert to cars, you can do a lot with that.
And so I think we're still dangling out there, and the bubbling cauldron of innovation that is the heartbeat of the greatest wealth creation machine the world has ever known is still going to have to bubble a bit before this electric car thing happens. And it's as likely to be one of our viewers as it is Elon Musk, and it's more likely to be than it is from anybody from Nissan, General Motors, or anything else.
You know,
now I told you guys 2 years ago that all of this would happen. I predicted all of it. There was great fanfare with this Volt and this Leaf and all these introductions. How many car introductions have they introduced and announced and shown prototypes of that have never become a product?
You're right.
The Toyota RAV4 that Tesla is building is just now going on sale. There's 3 or 4 cars you can buy and 50 that have been announced.
Yep.
And the value proposition on all of them is horrible. This week also, a big breakout. Reuters announced that General Motors was losing $49,000 per volt.
That is, yes.
I don't even know how to unwind this. It's so dicked up.
Yeah, yeah.
What Reuters was doing was taking the $500 million or $750 million in development costs and spreading them across the number of cars that had actually been sold, which is a child mind view of cars. And that's what we're up against. But Bob Lutz almost spilled the beans, but he just couldn't quite. People do not realize that these people don't design cars. They design machines that make cars. And these machines are a mile long. They have people in them, robots in them. But it also includes a huge logistics task with thousands of logistics engineers that just procure sub-assemblies and parts.
Yes, exactly.
And have them, they have to be scheduled to a certain gate at a certain time to go into the maw of this machine. Now, the head of the United Auto Workers said when they were in trouble, hey, we could work for free for the next 10 years. We wouldn't move the decimal place. Yep. And everybody laughed. Everyone thought, oh, man, those auto workers, they get too much money, and yada, yada, yada. And all the health care and the retirement, that's what's killing GM. There's nothing further than the truth. A Chevy Cruze sells for $16 grand. What do you think General Motors has in that car if you just count the parts that they either make or buy and the labor to assemble them? What do you think's in that car?
25% less, so about $12,000 maybe.
Not even close. They don't have $5 grand in that car. They don't have $5,000 in parts and labor in that car. Bob Lutz did say that the electric version was another $10,000 in parts and another $1,000 in labor. And that makes it a very expensive car for them to produce on the order of $16,000.
$16,000, yeah.
But that's not the business they're in.
Exactly.
They have to make enough of those cars to pay for that machine. And guys, 3/4 of the engineers that work at General Motors don't design cars. They design this assembly line.
You're exactly right. And I've had.
And it's typically $750 to $1 billion to do a new model. depending on how many parts you can use from the last model. If you can just drop a transmission in there.
You got a new front and a new piece of fiberglass on the front.
Innovation cannot, will not, and does not come from such places. It's like, yeah, I mean, could it? Sure. The Burlington Northern Railroad could have invented a DC-3 too. Did they do that?
No.
You know why?
Because they were worried about the railroad.
They were spending all goddamn day trying to be the Burlington Northern Railroad.
Yep. Not.
And they had scaled it up to where it was an immense thing. And anybody in there that had an innovative thought was immediately told to sit down and shut up. We have to keep the railroad running on time.
Which let me
and that is the scaling function of, if you had a corporation that truly became innovative, they wouldn't be able to scale very efficiently.
That's correct. Well, what I was going to say was, and I look back at my industry, which when I was in the accessories, the shows and the guy that's going to get the spark may be here at this next EVCon.
Yes,
you see things and you know A, B, and C, but if you don't know D, you stop.
Well,
and you may come here and get that one
right.
piece that's missing.
And it's not coming here to see me speak. They already get to see me speak. What they get to do is come and sit next to the other guy
That's
who
building
may
the
have
cars.
discarded the piece and it's
Exactly.
laying in his garage floor as one of those pieces that almost fit.
Yep. Exactly.
Might be the thing that this guy needs to make the perfect little balance of things. And along the way, of course, the components evolve. The net gain motors is different changes every year. We reported my conversation with Bill Ritchie, the motors they're introducing. Curtis continues to innovate. Evnetics continues to innovate. They're still working on the Zilla out at Manzanita. And so the components, as they get better, you'll be able to build a better car easier. And never mind the batteries getting significantly better with the CA series of cells. That, to me, that's a incremental, huge. Actually,
I think it's the game changer. I think it's the game changer.
And if we could just get that every couple of years, it's going to get better. So all this is going to happen, but we can't predict where. And the parts,
I bet we know about it.
well, we're going to try.
We're going to try to know about
the information flow where it shows up on my radar screen before anybody else's, and that's my point.
Yep, I understand it completely.
And that's my point on this. Even if you have a Lisa or a Next, if it's $10,000, nobody cares. They just can't care because it's not a very good value proposition.
Exactly. I agree.
And they did sell a few Lisas, and he even sold a few Nexts. But he had a big robotic assembly line again set up to do the Next that was a marvel. To just get a tour to watch him making those Next was just the media fought to get in. It really was gorgeous, but nobody bought them. And so everything Steve Jobs didn't work the first time. Everything Jack Ricker does doesn't work the first time. And everything you do is not necessarily going to work the first time. That's part of the process. Don't be discouraged. And yeah, I get a chill thinking that like at EVCon, I'll be in the room with somebody that goes way beyond Elon Musk.
Yes, the learning curve of actually understanding the designs and the work and the position of the parts is very rapid, because you'll look at 20 or 30 models, and then you can also ask the people that actually design the parts. And if you have a specific question,
they're getting feedback from people and running new ideas out and seeing if anybody salutes. And it's a process. It's a bubbling cauldron of innovation, a stew. And it's got a lot of pieces in it that
you don't know. You just really can't quite tell. But I think
so I love being around that stuff, and love being on that cutting edge. I'm leading this a little bit. we showed up a year or two too early. I know everybody thinks this electric car thing's a done deal. That's what I was saying 2 years ago. No, guys, it isn't really a done deal. This is, we're enabled in an exciting way by these new batteries that make a car viable. But we don't have the car yet. I'm sorry. It's not here.
But it will.
The Tesla Model S, I think it's a neat concept and a neat idea. At 55 grand, it's pretty attractive. At 100, it's not. They only sold 2,400 Roadsters. And that was supposed to be $109,000. It got up there 120, 130. But there's not that many people are going to pay $100,000 for that car. It's just not.
My opinion is, or my observation is, you got to think like a poor man at this development.
I don't think like a poor man, and I don't think you have to. But this concept that rich people are stupid is not.
That doesn't work. No, I'm talking about the innovator out there has got to say, I have to make this decision, and it is so important to me that I have to really mathematically figure it out, and I hope that they'll calculate hard enough to make some changes.
Something that somebody would want, number one. And number two, could be persuaded that this is a good value proposition. We may be leading a little bit, but that's okay. I'll pay a little premium to be out front, but I'm not stupid money.
Not throwing away.
Nobody wants to be stupid money.
No, you're correct there.
And so I think the Model S may have broached stupid money. And if so, they're going to sell about what they did of the Roadsters, 3,000 or 4,000 cars.
They were fun. I did ride in one, and just it did go fast though. It was fun.
I still like the Roadsters.
I still like them, but
I liked them when they were Lotuses and weren't even electric. And so, but you know, at some price, it just, what are we doing here?
You're waiting, actually.
You're
and
waiting,
they do not answer your phone call.
Right.
And
then in this case, when I did talk to somebody on the phone, he was a moron.
Well, he thought I thought he was pranking me, actually. Yeah. I said, you mean you're not going to tell me? He's like, no, I'm not giving you her name.
Yeah, I know. I laughed.
I'm like, you're pranking me. And then he calls and says, this guy's pranking me. I'm like, that's not right. And I was very sincere and serious.
Well, as badly as he butchered your name, I understand why he might be personally reluctant to give out names, because how could he get them right?
Well,
but
you know what
he acted like it was a company policy. Tesloids have no names.
Interesting.
So that's that. Nissan Leaf, interesting game going on there too. Again, this is the way a corporation reacts, because you've scaled things so big and it's so expensive to recall things. You can't be wrong.
Yeah, I've heard that more than once.
It can't be something not invented here, and you can't be wrong. Andy Palmer, Executive Vice President, has come out and publicly said, you know, they've had these guys in Phoenix. It's hot there, and they're losing range quickly in the first year. One guy's down where it gets 46 miles on a charge. And they're trying to figure out why. Let me tell you why. Lithium manganese oxide has a cycle life problem. It always did. It did from the moment it was introduced. There are some things you can do to lithium manganese oxide to ameliorate that a little bit. But from the get-go,
it's bad.
That was a problem with that chemistry. The problem, the thing is, it was safer than the lithium cobalt oxide.
It just goes up the scale, and then
I think these lithium iron phosphate cells with magic sauce, vanadium, yttrium, whatever you want to mix in there to increase the conductivity. Lithium iron phosphate has a little conductivity problem in the cathode, but they're 3,000 cycles, 5,000. They may be 12,000 cycles.
That's the key right there.
They last so long, it gets to be tough to figure out how long they last. Because you don't get a good fail line. Well,
I'm completely convinced on that.
And they're not quite as energy dense as lithium cobalt or lithium manganese, but they're a lot safer and they last a lot longer. And now we're getting them in these larger format cells. My God, the Escalade's got 400 amp hour cells in it. So in Phoenix, the cars are frying the batteries. Executive Vice President for Nissan Leaf, Andy Palmer, publicly announced that they don't have a problem with the batteries. They have a problem with the battery indicators. And that's what all these people are keying on, and they don't know what they're doing.
Nobody's ever right about a wrong or what. Yeah, I get your point now.
By the way, all the DIY guys want a pretty display with all this, predicting how many miles to go and so forth, so they can be like the Nissan Leaf. Guess what all the Nissan Leaf guys in the Leaf Owners Forum are working on? State of charge meters that are just percent or even better amp hours.
That sounds exactly right. Yeah.
They want a digital readout that tells them the truth.
Because the calculation, the speed, the particular weight of the car, more people in it.
Tony Williams, Phoenix, Arizona, one of the Leaf owners, has organized a test drive for tomorrow morning.
For the
big
shots.
Leaf owners.
The Leaf owners, okay.
No, not for the big shots, for the Leaf owners. Okay. They're actually going to drive the cars until they quit.
Now that is
and find honesty. Out if it's a range problem or an indicator problem.
I believe that is intellectual honesty to do that test.
Guess how that's going to come out?
Well, I don't know.
I don't either.
But we will find out. They will literally stop on the side of the road to...
I think they have a range problem.
Yeah.
I don't think they have an indicator. I don't think the indicator's any good either, but...
Well, the desert is tough.
Yeah. Okay, a little break here. That will magically appear. Thank you, fellas. What other news you got? I've got a bunch of user videos we need to talk about. What did you find anything interesting online?
The only, well, I've covered several things. The petition conversion was very interesting that they were trying to help, except they made a website in a format so difficult that you couldn't even type it in to Google to get the words into the box to even find out. The other interesting thing was there was a gas protest this week in New Jersey and New York. And
really? I hadn't heard about that.
It was kind of an interesting situation, which was staged as a publicity protest. And there is a chain of gas stations called Luke Oil in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And they were getting jerked around by their parent company, which forces them to buy their gasoline from them. So they all got together and raised the price to $9.99 per gallon.
There you go.
To get people's attention. And here's what happened.
Did anyone react to that?
Well, yes. A matter of fact, guess who reacted?
Who?
The Oil Price Information Service, or OPIS, which is the database that the nation uses to determine average gas prices, removed them from their system.
Oh my goodness.
They were omitted, so
they were simply deleted.
They deleted the $9.99 so it wouldn't calculate a higher price.
So actually, that used to be the Lundgren report, and it was on PBS's nightly business line. And the guy is long dead. I think his daughter does it now, but that's developed into what you're talking about.
Now you just get deleted from a database, so you can't even protest.
So anymore. What's going to happen with gas prices?
Well, I had another...
They're protesting Americans in 9 countries.
I know.
Over this movie.
Yes.
I haven't seen the movie.
I don't even know that it exists. But I did have another interesting anecdote on the gas prices, which was several years ago. I did a short-term consult with a gas price display company. And they're taking off like gangbusters, and guess what they're selling now?
What?
They have a digital LED, like the sign last year, remote control gas price changer.
Is
so
that right?
the attendant now can sit at the attendant's at the cash register inside the building and remotely raise your gas prices without even problem.
Just as you get to the pump.
Just as you get to the pump. So,
you can pull in at one price, and by the time you get your hand on it,
he only had 3 digits, so I wonder if we go to $10 a gallon.
Have to go to 4 digits.
They're going to tape. I guess they'll tape a 1 or something up there, but
it's one of my big fears because it runs through our whole economy so deeply.
I know
that there's a potential for grave economic harm from one altercation in the Straits of Hormuz or something.
Serious. That's absolutely true. We pray for that peace, but it's
Jesse and I weighed the. I don't really have film of it, but we weighed the Escalade. I'm a little porky.
We were kind of wondering if you were in the truck or not in the truck at the time of the weigh-in.
With me out of the truck.
That helps.
It's a remarkable number.
It was remarkable, yes.
7,777 pounds.
I remember that. That is a remarkable
Sometimes it would flip over to 8, but then it would drop back down to 7 on the scale.
That's quite a number.
It's 37% in the front and 63 in the back. That big battery pack of 57 400 amp hour cells is 1,700 pounds, and it's hurting my vehicle. We are fighting a transmission back into the edge.
I know that, yes.
And same problem. It was over 5,000 pounds when we put enough batteries in it to go anywhere. And so these large vehicles are becoming so portly that the transmission can't haul them around. And this is kind of the failure in the automatic transmissions. The Ford Edge, I think that could be a problem. The Escalade, there's actually a guy where I got the torque converter that does a monster 6L80.
Yeah, you do hear that.
They beef them up.
Well, they have diesels, and these guys pull big boats, and there may be a little bit of some
there might be something I can do, but it will eventually hurt that transmission just hauling around that much weight. And I'm doing on some drive. Now the neat thing is once you get it rolling, it's a lot of mass.
Stay out of the way.
If you crest the hill, it will roll a long way, and it's just like. Of course, it doesn't have regenerative braking, so. With that transmission, it rolls quite freely, and we're going to do some roll down tests, and some range tests, but the in the future. But on some drives, I'd be as low as 4.4 or 4.5 amp hours per mile, and about 800 watt hours per mile. But on some, I was up at 5.5 and 1,000 watt hours for 1 mile.
Yeah.
And so that leads me to a minimum range, probably driven hard, of 70 miles, and a max at about 90.
I guessed 80 right off the top when you gave me those numbers. So.
Yeah, that's where it's at. Yeah. And it glides along pretty nicely, actually. But it's a little porky, and so there's that. We did just a little bit of Jesse and Charlie got the motor and transmission back in the Edge. Let's take a look. Well, I've kind of been drug kicking and screaming into a Ford Edge project that isn't really our car, and it's been painful. But I've got a new shop guy we refer to as a shop rat, and this guy is a tornado. Jesse Hale actually is an electrician and has wanted to come play with electric cars for some reason. I'm not sure why. But he's been tearing up a patch, and he's moving so fast we're not getting video of some of it. This is our motor, which we did show you, the rebuild with the brushes and so forth. And Jess, we don't have our guards on. We've forgotten those. Now this one you can slip on pretty easy. This one might be a problem. You've got this all bolted up.
Okay, I think I can wedge it in there.
We've got a couple of dedicated braces that were done by the original people who did the thing. This one is kind of interesting. They use the 3 bolts in the motor that hold the shoe together. The shoe on the inside is a piece of laminated ferrous iron. Beyond that, it's really a silicon steel designed for magnetic fields now. Then the windings are done around. This is a very bad policy here that we're kind of stuck with. But you do not want to remove these bolts because they hold that shoe in position and those coils in position, and it's kind of part of the motor. And I really don't like this, but we've reassembled it, and we're very careful not to, we both took them out and put them back in with the motor completely together. Well, actually, we took this out, removed this, put the bolts back in, rebuilt the motor, and then with the motor all together, took these out again, put this on, and put it in. But the placement of that shoe is kind of non-trivial. And you really, if you do have to remove these for some reason, don't remove all of them. And it really, you shouldn't remove any of them. But that's what holds this mounting brace on. On this side, we have exactly the same situation. If you'll recall, on the Mini Cooper, we had to do this same thing, kind of a brace that attached to the motor, although we put it around the motor and didn't do this trick, to hold our one of our axle pieces, because it has a bearing here that it turns in and that supports it, and then that goes out to a wheel, this side being the short one to the adjacent wheel. This was exactly the situation we had with the Mini Cooper. If you recall, I had an aluminum brace here that didn't quite cut the deal, and I threw this shaft off, and then young Hauber did a steel one and burst into tears because it didn't work out, and it was no big deal. We ground off some stuff and trimmed it up, and it was perfect. And in fact, that's retained to this day. Matt was also very good with mechanics, but he would envision himself doing things completely, and then they don't always work out that way. And so his confidence I had a problem with, but then his despair I did too. I said, Matt, everything we do 4 times before we get it right on the 4th try. And that includes putting 2 batteries and a flashlight and getting it right for the 3rd try. By the way, I got to show you my flashlight. I should have a long time ago. Lee Moorhead gave me this thing, but I didn't really know what to do with it once the batteries went down. I found some lithium batteries for it. It's the 14440, and it's a little bitty flashlight, but it's made of brass. I want to find out where to get these. Lee Moorhead at Denton, Texas, came up and joined us when we finished up his build, and he gave me this. It's all brass. And is that bright or what? Little 14440 lithium cell, and of course it eventually burnt down, but I found some on eBay the other day, and a little charger, and got it. So I got my flashlight back in operation, Lee, and again, it's the dandiest little thing to peer inside of here or something. It's just perfect, and it's small enough to have in your pocket, and quite bright. Anyway, how did I get off on that? This is the same as the Mini Cooper, and by the way, Mr. Hopper's bracket worked fine, and it just needed a little trimming, and we got it in the Mini Cooper, and it works good. And undoubtedly we have to do it again, because I'm probably going to use a Mini Cooper for an AC project that we're hopeful comes up, and put another motor, another controller in it. It's getting to be worn out from all the stuff we put in it. But this was the same situation. This shaft is normally attached, this was attached to the motor, but we took the motor, or we took the engine out and put in a motor, an electric motor. A motor has windings, an engine has pistons. We removed the engine and put in a motor. Again, they use these 3 bolts. These are, here is a mounting bolt hole they provide you, and we have an eye bolt in it. That's what you use. These 3 bolts hold the shoe that holds the field coil in the motor in position. And you want to take very good care not to mess that up. Now, it's pretty simple. It's just 3 holes and 3 bolts, and if you have them all lined up, it pretty much works. But it's not a good practice to use them for mounting things. Here's the transmission. As you can see, it doesn't look as good as the transmission we took out, which was bad. But we did put new seals here and on the power shaft and here. And we had to go to Ford, and they had to have a VIN number, right?
Yeah.
To even look up the part.
Yeah, to even pull it up on the computer. They wouldn't do anything without the VIN number.
And so I'm a little peeved at them. And this is a little device that we picked up to use when we put the motors into the $35 on eBay. You can crank this, and it moves this along the screw, changing the center point, and so the angle in fairly controllable fashion of your device you're putting in. So this is the Ford Edge transmission, hopefully the right one. It bolted up okay, right?
Bolted up perfect, just exactly like the other one.
And it looks like the other one. This one is kind of corroded. It has 41,000 miles on it. I think this only had about 50,000 miles on it. So maybe we'll get 9,000 miles, huh?
That's right, hopefully.
No, the problem is we've built too heavy a car. I got this relatively inexpensively, 800 bucks on eBay. And it came out of a Saturn. Actually, they have the same, apparently identical transmission. And that's kind of a Ford hallmark. They do use some parts on multiple models and across many years. And I've always liked that about Ford. So the next step is to put this in the engine compartment. And he and Charlie are going to do that in the morning. And then we'll film what they have done. We're going to reassemble the engine compartment, the controller, the vacuum pump, the air conditioning compressor, and the various mounts and things mounted to it, lacking the battery pan, so we can have access to these equipments and be able to troubleshoot them and to repair them. We were unable to even check the transmission fluid level. Don't forget that. And when we get this assembled. And so I don't know what the status of that transmission is. We may take that over to LeGrand's and let them take it apart and tell us what happened.
Yeah.
And maybe rebuild it.
Yeah,
since we're going to be swapping transmissions every 6 months.
Yeah, might as well keep a spare.
We want a quick disconnect motor and transmission out of the car where I can punch a button, it'll drop to the floor.
Well, I mean,
you drag it out,
you can
slip another one back there, winch it up, and I'll reset the button.
I don't know how that worked. You'd end up clicking that going down the road.
Mm-hmm. But this is our thing. On the front, they have a fairly nicely made plate and pulley with a reluctor ring. This is the pickup for the vehicle to get RPM. We have another pickup that works off these two tabs to give RPM, I think, to the Soliton. And we may replace it with one of our AP3 inductive pickups, which I like so well. Belts, and it runs the air conditioning compressor. Yes. And was that it? Was that all the equipment hooked up here?
There's the power steering pump.
And there is a power steering pump.
Yeah, that's it. Just the air conditioner and the power steering pump, and that's all there is.
Mm-hmm. We'll probably leave it at that. This has an electric vacuum pump for the brakes, a whole process I detest. I like the ones that run off the belts better, or in the case of the Cadillac, we did away with it entirely and got a brake system that's entirely compatible. The larger pickups and diesel pickups don't make enough manifold pressure, so they have a hydrostatic system, and the Escalade's brakes are Marvy. They are just too cool. And so but this one, my wife complains that there's no brakes. Actually, it works pretty well, but if you step on the brakes more than 4 times in 10 seconds, pumping the brakes, it runs out of vacuum. Now, you still have brakes, but you really have to step on it, and the pedal goes down a little bit, and so she thinks she doesn't have brakes. I said, put a little thigh in it, hon, and you got it to work with. Just put it in there. And so she can make the stop. But the way I drive, you would never, ever have your foot on the brake 4 times in 10 seconds. You might have it on the brake for 10 seconds, but then you're going to be off of it. But she stabs the brakes and then stabs the accelerator, normally to the floor, and then the brakes, and pumps those, and then stabs the accelerator again. It's a very interesting driving technique. I don't know where she learned it, but she grew up in San Francisco. It may be how they do that out there. I better shut up about that if I want to continue my career. So here we've got the motor freshly painted red and with our end bells brightened up. And so that'll all go back on. There was, believe it or not, a little piece of cable with 2 terminals stuck between these 2 terminals. This is normally, you connect A1 to S1, and then your negative and your positive, believe it or not, are not, there's no polarity. It's how you hook up this junction between your field windings and your rotor windings that determines the motor direction. And these you can put on either way, and it still turns counterclockwise on the drive end. And so it'll turn clockwise on this end. Jesse, we typically do this with a piece of copper bar and then some heat shrink over it. And we're going to leave those terminals probably exposed in this case because the motor is going to be pretty hard to get to anyway. But they had a little piece of like 2-aught cable with no insulation on it and 2 terminals crimped on, and then the whole thing with a couple of these hoods, and it was just a mess. But it was inadequate to carry the current. This bar will work better. Again, a series DC motor. We're going in A2, out A1. That's your 2 armature or rotor terminals to the brushes. And then it's bridged over here to S1 and S2, and that's the stator. That's these field windings that, again, are held in place by these 3 bolts. They had an adapter plate to the transmission, and the shaft simply keyed to the torque converter.
Yes.
And so it does use the torque converter.
Yes.
Good. Are we using the one that came out of that transmission?
We actually are, because this one here has a button on the back of it, which on the other one was already cut off.
Uh-huh.
And we'd have to cut that off and weld it up back together, the same as this one here. So
let's hope it wasn't the torque converter that failed.
Let's hope so.
And it may have been.
Yeah.
Could that happen? Can the torque converter be the problem?
We'll find out.
We'll find out. And so, yeah, I would have preferred to use the torque converter for that one. But they had actually modified the torque converter.
Yes, it did.
Huh. That may be where our problem was. We started to modify one on the Escalade and decided that if we went to messing with that, it might develop a leak. But I see we're leaking transmission fluid, so we must have had some, huh?
Oh yeah, it was full.
All right. Let's try to do a little bit of corrosion control with a wire brush here. This is awful looking, but and then you and Charlie are going to try to bolt this in the morning. I'll try to get up and be here. Maybe we'll film some of that. And that's our drivetrain, front wheel drive unit. And here's where your shafts go. This is your long shaft and your short one, and out to the wheels. And you had to get a new bracket for that. There was one that was stripped out.
Yes, sir, on the caliper mount bracket.
Okay, good. So we'll get that on. I hope it's easier than the Mini Cooper.
Oh yeah.
To do that, but let's get this in, and we'll try to get it wired up and everything back to working off the single battery pack. And we can test everything out and get it working off of that. And then we'll work on getting that second set of batteries back in the car somewhere, hopefully underneath. And that'll be another project. But for now, if we can just get it running on a single string of 100 amp hour Thunder Skies, it won't go very far down the road, but it should go well, and we should be able to work out all the little bugs and so forth, and see if we can get that going. All right, cool. Okay, Jess, we're back on the Ford Edge. It's a different beast now that I can look down into it.
Yes, it is.
And they did have a lot of room above the motor. I can see where they were tempted to put batteries, but we can't put batteries back in there. We'll never be able to get to all this, which was our original problem. And now we can check our transmission fluid level, and I guess we'll have to add transmission fluid, huh?
Oh yeah.
And
Lots of it.
and put in our axles back on.
No sir.
No.
We just got it.
Okay, so you just got her in the engine bay and mounted back up to the mounts here.
That's right.
On the two sides. Well, excellent. And our motor's in place, and our transmission is in place. And now we have to reassemble your parts on the what would you call that? Your appliance end of the motor, where we have all our
your pulley system.
Yeah, the pulley system, and our air conditioning compressor, and our
power steering pump,
and so forth. And that's that looks good. And then we have to put our axles back in.
Yes, sir.
And did you get that piece that had to have the bracket for the discs? Calipers?
They haven't called me yet.
So you haven't got that yet, huh?
I haven't got that part yet, no.
Okay, and there was a stripped out hole in it. We might be able to get that tapped, but I'd just soon have the new piece if we can get it.
To have it tapped was $35, and to buy a new part was $25.
The new part was less than the tap in the hole, yeah.
Yep, pretty
You
simple.
run into that sort of thing a lot in this game. So, well, it looks good in there. And hopefully we can get this back running, work out some sort of a mount for our Solicon.
Well, I'm kind of hoping I can get it somewhere up here. If I can. You know, I got my wires here, but I'm going to have to extend all these wires down here.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So, other than building the mount, it's fairly easy to finish her up.
Okay, good. Well, we should be able to get this rolling then, hopefully before the convention. But let's keep after piecing it back together, and we'll run it off that one battery pack in the back until we get everything working, and then we'll talk about finding a place for the rest of the batteries on the second pack that were mounted up here. But I'd like to leave this open and be able to perform basic maintenance, at least as far as checking transmission fluid and that sort of thing in the interim. So it looks like it went back in pretty good. Hopefully our new rebuilt motor or motor with new brushes and so forth. I see you got the guards back on the motor, and
Yes, sir.
so that looks pretty good. And maybe we'll get an electric car out of this and get another 6 months out of that transmission, huh?
Let's hope for at least 6 months, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, this hadn't been my favorite car, but actually it's pretty nice to drive. It's got a lot of creature comforts, and these big cars, what we're learning, and is becoming evident on the Escalade as well, is that you can make them go pretty good. If you try to make them go very far, it takes a lot of batteries, and you're taking a heavy car and making it even heavier, and it's almost impractical. I'm getting to where I think we're going to go back the other way and start working toward smaller cars again. These have been an interesting experiment. You can do them. I don't advise it. It's a very expensive battery proposition, and you wind up almost in a lead acid type posture, squatted down on your springs and hauling a bunch of batteries around and taking 600, 700, 800 watt hours per mile to do it. They're an energy hog for the same reason they were a gas hog. They're big, they're heavy, and they're ugly. Except my Cadillac, it's pretty.
It's pretty, yes.
Let's keep after it, Jess. I think you're tearing up a patch here. Don't let me slow you down.
Oh, I'm working on this one pretty
If I
soon,
get
so.
between you and the car, just knock me out of the way.
Alrighty. Fun stuff.
Not a whole lot there, but
Not much to see.
we got the motor and the transmission back in, and we're going to start piecing it together. Now, what we're going to do is get it all wired up and working off that battery box we built in the back, and then after it's all working, we'll start adding back in those.
It was front-wheel drive, though.
It is.
It is front-wheel drive, which for the viewers may be a little more interesting if they, if I'd always heard you would want to, if you're a converter, you would want a front-wheel drive system and a rear-wheel drive system.
Oh, I don't think so.
Wayne Alexander told me that last year at the convention. So what do you need to know? He said,
both in this car and in a Mini Cooper, you wind up with the long side axle has a support, and you have no place to hang it because it always hangs from the engine. Both the Edge had that and the Mini Cooper, and that's a real problem. I mean, it's not a real problem. You do a bracket and hang it somewhere, but it's hung on the side of the motor.
but it's driving the entire car.
Right.
Off of that one bracket that is hanging on the motor shaft.
Well, it's driving half the car. You have a short side axle and a long side axle. It's the long side axle always has this support bearing, and then they'll have like a flex coupler outside of that.
In observation, it makes a curious mind wonder a little bit there.
It does. So we're going to try to get that back together. We also did just a little bit on the lawnmower, if you want to see that.
I called you out last week, so.
Here we go.
Let's go.
Okay, now go.
Jesse,
Yes.
we've been outed.
Been outed.
Yeah, Richard told them about our lead acid battery in this thing.
Uh-oh.
The big cow. What have you got for me? What have you done here?
Well, we've installed a 36 to 12 volt DC to DC converter so that we can charge our 12 volt lead acid battery off of our 13 battery pack.
Okay. So this is our lead acid battery under the seat, and we just use that to run our contactors and that clutch for the blades. So we got to have 12 volts, and how are we going to charge that? Well, we've hooked up to the motor terminal here, and then to the contactor terminal there that's connected to the positive terminal of the battery, and that's the input to our DC to DC converter, and the output simply goes to the terminals, and it's on all the time, right?
And
unless that switch is turned off.
Unless the disconnect switch is turned off.
If we turn the disconnect switch off, we have no drain on our lithium-ion cells.
Correct.
And why is that important?
Well, so that we don't drain our whole pack just for
a lot of guys use a lawnmower a lot. Some fat, lazy guys only get it out once in a while. So it spends 90% of its life parked. And we don't want to drain down those batteries. That is a parasitic load on our battery pack and would drain our batteries to nothing. But if I set that switch to off and park this vehicle, we don't use anything out of that battery pack, and those batteries will sit there for 300 years waiting for me. And so that's the concept there. What we have done, and I'll get a close-up of this, is installed a VI 241-04 DC to DC converter brick. These are little modules from Vicor Corporation, who have an excellent online website with design calculators and product specifications. And these guys really own DC to DC converters. They've been doing them for 50 years. They own it so much, anybody wasting their time designing DC to DC converters is literally wasting their time. They're quite expensive, except they're used in so much equipment that people rip them out and put them on eBay. And I got this one for nothing. This is basically a 36 watt, 36 volt to 12 volt DC to DC converter module. It's got a pretty wide range, like 28 to 48 volts or something, 60 volts, I think, input. And it puts out exactly 12 volts at 3 amps, up to 3 amps, which is not a lot, but we've got a little 12 volt battery, and if we leave that sit there long enough, it'll bring it to, I'm guessing, 11.98 volts. I'll just pull that number out of the air. We've got a meter on the 12 volt, and that's not really enough to fully charge it. And we should probably fully charge it. And with the addition of a trim resistor on my DC to DC converter, we could put that right at 13.2, no problem. And we may do that, but probably not for a lawnmower and a 12 volt battery.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna hurt any.
It's, and what we use out of this battery, which was the starter battery for a big 17 horsepower motor, is we use it to engage a contactor and run a meter and that clutch.
That's right.
But we have to have it, and it's already installed. We never even took that battery out of there, and it's under the seat. And so now we're wired in to charge it off our main pack in a very constant 3 amp trickle charge, which is never going to take it above 12 volts. So we're not going to hydrolyze that battery ever. When it gets to 12 volts, it just won't draw anything from that DC to DC brick. But if we turn that switch off, nothing draws anything anywhere. I've got my voltmeter here, 42.70 volts. By the way, I finished the book on those. I'm having a little trouble posting to the website this afternoon, but as soon as that gets cleared up by Mr. Fisher, who now lives in Sweden and does most of my website stuff, thank you, Chris, then as soon as he gets done doing his job and I can get back on the web store, we will put this little voltmeter up online. It has 2 control relays, and we used one of them to act as the crudest charger in the world. We hook up this Anderson connector, which I detest, but the size of this pack will probably be charging it 10 amps, and I have a 175 amp connector there. And when it gets to 46 volts, it disconnects the charger with a second contactor. Now, that's about as simple a battery management system as there is, and I don't have to carry an onboard charger. With this little DC to DC converter, I don't really have to put in a full DC to DC converter. And since we turn it on with one contactor, I don't even have a controller. So I would say this is the most minimalist John Deere electric zero-turn riding lawnmower on the planet. Unfortunately, along the way, you created, in spite of my best efforts, the loudest electric vehicle in North America. I do believe.
I think I like it loud.
This thing is annoying as shit. The whole concept was to make it quiet, and we failed badly. But it's a grass-throwing son of a gun, isn't it?
It is. It cuts real good.
Yep. And so that's pretty much where we're at on it, and that completes the project as far as I'm concerned. We have a meter, we have a way to charge, we have a way to turn it on and off, and now we have a way to charge our 12-volt battery, which has been run down so many times. It would be worthless, but with 3 amps trickled into it all the time, it's going to work fine. To turn a contactor and run a voltmeter, which uses 60 milliamps, the coil on a contactor, 300 milliamps, and that clutch, which might be something actually, we should be able to run our mower. So that wraps up the John Deere project. We should probably get some footage of me mowing the lawn if I ever do that.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. And there will be, okay. All righty, so that's the lawnmower. Mm-hmm. DC to DC converter hooked up to the battery, and so yeah,
the little
you
digital.
busted this on the lead acid battery, but it's fully charged now.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Little 3 amp DC to DC converter.
I like that.
So our lawnmower's going. Interdel CEO is David Roberts now. You know, Interdel was bought by the Russians.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember that.
They're going to kind of get out of EVs and focus on the great next market that everybody is talking about is storage for wind and solar. And
I've heard, yes.
At that price for the batteries, it's not going to work.
Well, I have heard the big picture of the future is that the portable battery world is the next
I wish they would
thing.
take these big batteries and do that, because then the price would come down and for us. But I don't hold any hope. Jeff Southern. Jeff, come on down. He's getting to be a regular.
I've seen his name.
He shows us how to use a kick press this week to
that will be fun.
Make a panel. Let's take a look.
Hello, Jeff Southern here from Kennesaw, Georgia. I'm celebrating tonight with a little bit of wine. I finally started to get to the point of my project where I'm creating a car rather than just a sheet metal experiment. I've got an update on the car of where I've made the progress up to this point. Still hope to get it done by EVCon. We'll find out. The wine I'm drinking is a Cabernet Shiraz blend. It's called the Ménage à Trois. You can actually find it at Publix for about $10. Very good wine for the money. It's a little bit sweet for most people's taste, but for just a sipping wine, it actually works pretty well. So I hope you like my update. I've been doing a lot of sheet metal work to the car lately, and I thought I'd show you guys a tip on how I do things. This is one of the dash panels out of the car. The 12-volt adapter goes here. The emergency flasher goes here. This is a little pilot indicator, which I'm actually going to lose. What I'm doing is I'm going to mount my little 4-inch HMI into the dash panel. A couple of people have asked me what these are. What an HMI stands for is human machine interface. On automation equipment, this would be something you would use with a touchscreen adapter. So you'd put graphics on the screen and you would program it to like turn things on, turn things off. You can have analog values. You can have a slider where you can slide it back and forth, say to vary the speed or the pressure or something. It has 4 function keys on this particular unit that you can make them do specific functions with. So basically, it's just like it's like a programmable input-output board. So you can program your inputs and outputs into the processor to do whatever you want them to do. I'm going to mount it in the panel. As Jack says, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. I thought I was going to have to move both of these two devices, the 12-volt adapter and the flasher hazard, but as it turns out, the HMI actually fits off to the side, so I can leave those in place, and the only thing I lose is this pilot indicator, which I think just indicates when you have a problem with your brakes. Not really sure exactly what it does. I haven't studied the electrics. I can move it over here, or I can move it to a adjacent panel. The way I typically do sheet metal work is I'm going to punch this hole out. What I've done is I've done a drawing that shows the punch marks. I have a 1/8 inch wide by 1 inch punch I'm going to use to punch this out with. So these little marks here indicate where I need to punch. All I've done is tape this on the back of the unit, and as you can see, it's a full-scale drawing that represents the face of the unit. So this is the outside of the unit, and this is the punch out for how it fits through the panel. So what I'm going to do is take a center punch and simply punch each one of these spaces here in the panel, and I'm going to carry it over to a little kick press and punch out the hole, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, I'm here at the kick press. This is what a kick press looks like. It's basically just a device that punches hole in metal. As you can see, I got a die. It's foot operated, so you push it down and it punches the hole out, so you can use both hands. So what I'm going to be doing is lining the die up and punching out this slot along this way, turn it, punch it out along this way. Unfortunately, I don't have another person with me, so I can't show you the actual punching in process, but I think most of you will get the idea of how to do it. Well, here you can see I've punched out about half of it, so I just wanted to see how I was doing it. That's why you mark these little points in the metal. Each one of these is a punch mark. So I basically just follow the line and I can punch it out. Now a lot of you may be asking, well, that's great, but you know, I can't afford that kind of equipment. I bought this punch press for about $200 at an auction. It was in pretty bad shape. It's fairly well worn out, but I kind of did a little rework on the slides, got it to working again. So probably bought about another $300 worth of tooling for it. So for about $500, I've got something I can punch sheet metal out with, and a nice clean hole, so I don't wind up with jagged edges and everything around the edge. Just thought you guys might want to see this. Well, I've got the last hole lined up on the punch, and I'm going to punch one last hole so you can see how it works. This is kind of an exercise in standing on one foot, balancing and trying to video at the same time. So here goes the last punch. So now I got a nice clean hole in my part. So you can see no rugged edges on it. And I got a nice clean hole in there without significantly bending or damaging the front of the unit. So I find this kick press has probably been one of the better devices I have. I also have a little 3-foot Diagro brake and a little roller device to roll stuff in, and a little 3-foot shear. So basically my sheet metal work is kind of limited to 3-foot sections, but probably all of this equipment combined is probably under $1,200. So there you go. Here is the panel view mounted in the display. It mounts with these little cam lock units. They basically just lock into place. They slide into these slots into the unit, and you just cam them over. This one will have to be cut off a little bit. It sticks out the edge a little, as you can see. They're made out of plastic, so it'll be easy to cut. The one in the rear, because of this little angle, it locks at a little bit higher position, so it moves in farther, so I won't have to modify that. So that's pretty much it. It's locked into place. It should fit well. Again, I'll have the 12-volt, or some people call it the cigarette lighter adapter here, and then the flasher here. These holes are where a rubber piece mounts. It's kind of a knee brace. I'm actually going to cut the rubber out to fit around the edge of the display. As you can see, the through hole here probably interferes with the display. As you can see, it definitely interferes with the back of it back here. So I'll probably have to cut that off as well and remount that. In addition, the mounting hole for the panel itself is under this cam lock, so it's right here. So I'll have to move that over here in the car. Again, it's not a big deal. It's a small sheet metal change to make this work. Just thought you'd like to see how to mount my little 4-inch color display. So this will be in the dash. This will give me my amp hours. It'll allow me to control various things in the car. It basically is just your window into what the processor is up to. This thing does support multiple processors. It has multiple communications. It has 2 serial ports and an Ethernet port on it to be able to, the Ethernet port comes in the back, so this is how I'll actually communicate with my little PLC controller over here. So that's how it works. That's what it's for, and I'll show it to you mounted in the car. I'm trying to get the car finished up for EVCon, which it's fighting me tooth and nail, but I'm getting there. Finally have sorted out the batteries. Going to wind up with 10 in this front hole here. So you got one cell turned this way, there'll be 1, 2, 3. There is a cell actually hidden. I don't know if you can see it up under there, but it fits right in that hole. There's the bracket for the hood mount. And you can see, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I got 10 batteries up here in the front. And these are Calb 180s. They just barely fit. I had to take a hammer and do a little persuasion on the sheet metal there to get them in there, but it works. I cracked one of the seams, but I'll just weld it back up when I hit it with a hammer. So that's what the front battery pack's going to look like. Probably mount the charger in this hole so it can get some air from the back side coming up through it. One nice thing about the thing is that the trunk is completely sealed. You got this nice gasket that goes around it. So I'll be able to put all my electronics up against that firewall up there and won't even have to worry about sealing them too much because the compartment will be mostly sealed. I'm going to put my electrical connector from David Kernsel here. I think that'll look really nice right there where the gas cap was. Did get my sheet metal work done in the pan. Had to redo both sides of it in the rear. About 3/4 of the rear sections were pretty much gone. I'm going to see if I can get up above it. As you can see, I did move the seat track back. It's probably back about 2.5 inches from the position. The one on this side is the original stock position. You can see this one's moved back maybe 2 inches. Also got my HMI mounted in the dash. I was real pleased with the way that turned out. It works really good. I can see it great from the passenger seat. I was able to retain my flashers, the original cigarette lighter adapter, and this is actually a brake indication light. It has 2 sensors on the master cylinder. If they aren't in agreement, that light will come on. Kind of let you know that one of your cylinders failed or maybe you got a leak in one of the lines. Pretty handy to keep, I think. As far as under seat storage, I'm going to wind up with batteries under the rear seat. There's going to be 3 of them here. They fit nicely. I'm just going to build a small box and slide them back up under there. This is where the original factory battery goes. You can see there's an indention into the sheet metal for the battery box. So that worked out kind of nice. Got the transmission in, got my shift coupler hooked up. Also did some speaker installations. Mounted some aluminum panels to mount my speakers on. So that's how they worked. It actually sounds pretty good. Mounted 2 more on some kick panels up under here. So I'll let you see those. I'm going to try something a little bit different with the sound system in this car. It is a convertible, so it's going to be a little loud going down the road. What this is, it's a pile stereo amplifier. It basically takes a 3.5 millimeter audio left and right jack into it and provides up to 100 watts of power to each one of the speakers. So it's a little 400 watt unit. You can see it's really small. Obviously it's not really 400 watts. It'll probably produce about somewhere around 50 watts probably. And this is the volume control for it. So this will turn the volume up and down. I'm going to use the smartphone that I'm using to record this video with as my main audio visual source. It'll do all my navigations turn by turn. You just plug this into the phone, or better yet, I'm going to have a Bluetooth adapter. This is a little bitty Bluetooth adapter from a company called, let's see, what is it called here? Griffin. See if I can get it to focus here. Can't seem to get it. Well, what this does is this is a Bluetooth adapter. It plugs into the cigarette lighter adapter on the dash here. You can see it plugs in nicely. And you take this 3.5 millimeter and just run that into the 3.5 millimeter here, and you've got your sound and your audio. So now your phone can be connected via Bluetooth. This is the push to call or push to answer button. It has a microphone built into it. It works surprisingly well. I didn't expect it to work as well as it did for something that cost 30 bucks on eBay. Again, the HMI will be nice. I'll push this button. This will be my main information display. I push this button. It'll go to a trending graph that lets me trend the amp hours and the battery sag, pretty much anything I want to trend, any value in the PLC. And I can also trim it to an SD card in the unit and take the SD card out so I can actually log an entire drive's worth of data. I'm sure Jack would love to pour over that for a little bit. Hit function 3 and that'll go to my configuration and settings. Hope to be able to change a bunch of settings of this. My ultimate goal is to get this working on a CAN bus where I can actually change the parameters inside the AC50. The Curtis controller. I know that's probably not possible. I don't think they publish enough information to do it, but it's worth a try to find out. And then the fourth button, I hadn't decided what that'll do. That may do my intermittent wipers or something. I don't really know. The wiper motor here is burned out. Probably going to hook it up to my PLC with a standard 12-volt 2-speed gear motor and just replace it and then have the PLC actually drive it. So I've got so it'll be 6 batteries here under the seat, 3 under each of the rear seats. As Jack noted, the thing does have a shelf back here, so you could put the batteries on the back. They would be a little more accessible, but they'd be a little more in the way too. The Cab 180s fit absolutely perfect back here. As you can see, there's plenty of room between the battery and the back seat, up against the little back wall here. And you could probably get, 12 or probably a little bit more than 12 across there. So you could put all your batteries up here. The reason I didn't do it is I didn't want the weight up that high. If you look at this rear shelf, it's probably, 3 feet off the ground, maybe 4. And I didn't want that much weight up real high. I like having the weight down low. Here it's down below the pan a little bit and the little hole in the battery box. I'm willing to live with harder to get to. The seat is so easy to remove in this thing. You remove the seat, remove a couple of cross springs, and you have full access to the batteries down there. In the rear, I've done something quite interesting, I hope. Like I say, these are the battery boxes I made. These are made out of 16 gauge aluminum. These are going to go in the rear. The reason they're such an unusual shape, this shape here, is so that they fit the contours of the structural members on the inside of the thing. What I did is in the engine skirt, normally in the engine compartment, there's a skirt that comes out and goes around the Volkswagen engine. I just cut that out. So that's the main structural member in the thing. And what's going to happen is my battery box is going to mount right to the structural member. If I can wrestle it into place here. So the battery box will mount right to that structural. Okay, I used a jack to put the battery box in its place. As you can see, I made it, going to make it probably roughly even with the top here. And then again, it's going to bolt just with some through bolts. They'll be threaded right into the structural member here. I'm going to run a piece of angle iron from the rear all the way up to the firewall, attach it to the firewall, and then from this side I'll just bolt it to the angle iron. Also, the angle iron will give me a place to structurally mount the Curtis controller over the top of the motor. As you can see, I get plenty of room on my transaxle. There's probably going to be about 13, maybe 14 inches between the 2 battery boxes. That's why I made it hug the edge of the structural members a little bit. So the batteries will just be suspended. They won't stick down any further than the original motor did, which is kind of nice. I figure as long as I can keep my battery box above the skid plate here on the transaxle, I figure I'm good to go. Could mount them a little higher. I've got this on a jack, so I can raise it up some. So I could mount the battery box up to about that high. Don't really know if I want to. I think I want to keep the weight down a little bit lower rather than higher. Just going to make sure I have a good 8 or 9 inches of ground clearance in the back. And that's kind of it. That's how I did the 2 rear battery boxes. Well, that's it from Georgia. Just thought you'd want to see it. Cheers. See you guys at EVCon.
Do you recall us talking about a boat last week?
Oh, yes.
The Aristocraft.
That one actually, I hate to say this. Well, I should say it. It actually has been the top subject on my mind for several days now.
Really?
I believe in it that much, yes.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I'm very excited.
You can go ahead and get more excited because I'm starting to get excited.
Yes.
I had a talk with a gentleman this week that's one of the top shops on the West Coast in jet drives. He doesn't want to come out of the closet yet, but he's signed on. He's
All
going
right.
to probably bring one of his drives out here and take it apart, show it to us.
Wait.
And he's got a new product that's very exciting. It's a smaller jet drive that's more efficient, and he's looking for a way to introduce it. Now we were gonna we talked about doing this thing together, and he was even going to provide the boat, and he picked out a boat. Now he's kind of do that project, and I'm going to do this one, but we're going to still work together. I'm going to help him with his component selections, and he's going to help us with all.
I volunteered to test drive.
Well, it gets better than that. It gets better than that. Jeff Southern, I know enough about boats to get us both drowned, Richard. And I swam at the National Invitationals in 1968, if you recall. His father, actually, I was the youngest person in America to get a water safety instructor certificate. They changed the rules on my birthday, and his dad rigged it where we would do the test that day.
Yes, so you would do that.
And they did that for 1 year, and the next year changed it back to age 16. I was 14 years old. There are a dozen of us that have it.
Special group.
And I swam in the National Invitationals in 1968, and I could drown us both with a boat. And that's with 6 years in the Navy. Jeff actually knows a lot about boats, and he did an electric outboard motor.
I did not know that.
Well, it's a little known fact.
I did not know that.
It's not told around a lot, but he did. And when I first came across him, we were talking about his. He actually sold them. He sold several of them.
That makes sense. That is kind of.
He knows a lot about boats. He's working on a thing, but he knows a lot about boats. He lives in Kennesaw, Georgia. I have for a year been noodling over this little Aristocraft torpedo. It's a 12-foot boat.
Oh, yeah.
But it's made like a Chris Craft.
I know.
And by the same family that's been making them since 1949.
I'm in.
Have you saw
I'm
our
in.
picture?
Yes, and it's gorgeous, and it would.
Well, Jeff didn't know about all this, and you have to have a certain hull, and he kind of wants to direct drive and stuff. He's 20 miles from their factory. I said, well, could you go over and chat with him? And I sent them an email. I'd been talking to them by email, too, about this project. And so he went over there. Well, guess what?
Oh.
He don't care about the thing anymore. He wants to do a boat.
That's all I didn't want to.
He said if that boat had been ready, he would have brought it home and bought it himself.
They are
the one they were working on. You kind of have to get him to build one for you. So
they're the Porsche of the replica boat world, if you kind of want to put it in perspective out in the audience world. It is quite a sexy machine.
What I want is the Porsche Speedster of the water.
That's what
And they don't have such things.
They will soon, I bet.
They just might.
And it'll be silent. And
now I got to beat up Bill Ritchie. They are going to introduce, and hopefully they will grace me with one for promotional consideration, of a Siamese AC-35 that they do in belted aluminum, shiny.
That'd look good.
With 2 Curtis controllers.
There you go. Well, that's a lot for that little boat. You sure you need all that? That's going to be a lot.
I don't.
You will go there.
I don't need a boat at all. Sir, does your dog bite? No, he does not bite.
That's not.
I thought you said your dog didn't bite. Sir, that is not my dog.
That is correct.
Do I need a boat at all?
No, but I guess I don't know. Unless you're fishing.
Okay, but if I wanted a boat,
that would
wanted
be the
to do a
one.
boat, I would want to do a boat that you would want.
Yes, they will step on other boats to see that boat go by.
I want to stand on the front of the other boats to look at this.
That is the boat. I can assure you. And so, yeah.
Well,
I'm in.
He went and saw the factory, said they're a great bunch of people. They really are craftsmen. The boats are unbelievable. And he's completely sold on the Aristocraft now. And
I'm sold on it. It didn't take me very long.
So I think if we take this guy's drive and this guy's motor, some of the cow batteries,
Summertime, some Hawaiian Tropic, and boat shoes. You'll have to
and
buy boat shoes.
naked women,
No, half naked women.
half naked. Oh, very well.
Okay. And boat shoes. You'll have
And
to get
boat shoes, like I
Crocs,
wear,
okay.
Crocs. And I think, unless I miss my bet, and there is a lot I don't know about boats, but I think I can sew all this up into, and they have a 12, a 14, a 16. We haven't really decided, but probably the 16.
Well,
But a little boat that would be easy to handle, easy to trailer, easy to throw in the water, a yacht
Exactly.
tender almost,
gasoline.
and
Yeah.
that will just zip around, and we'll put that white Petri steering wheel on it, like I do on the Speedsters, and electric Speedster on the side.
A little flag on the back.
Well,
A little
okay.
flag on the back. Must have that.
Declaring that we're part of the
The yacht
Persian
club.
Navy or
The-
something.
the yacht club flag.
Registered in Iran.
The electric boat yacht club.
And I think this thing
I am
will run on the jet, and there won't be anything in the water.
Yes. I have quite a bit of boating experience and background.
I didn't know.
Well,
that,
I've
but
ridden
I
a
know
lot
your
of the
dad
little,
did.
Well, I rode a lot, and the jet propulsion systems are quite powerful, and you can really get a feel to them, and they have a
That was
movement.
invented by Alexander Hamilton in New Zealand.
I
Believe it
didn't
or not.
know that, but they
Yes, in 1964, and to ride a boat on these rocky bottom streams that he just couldn't
knock
use
the
a
propeller
pump
off.
on.
Yep.
And he invented the jet pump driven boat.
Yeah.
And, but I think that they're more maneuverable. They're quieter.
Much quieter.
They are not as efficient. We have to, and right now they're selling jet drives as the lower drive for an outboard.
And they put them. They actually run them here in Missouri. Some.
But the penalty is pretty severe. 150 horse outboard, you put a jet drive on it, it's the equivalent of 105.
Okay.
It's not a little efficiency cut, it's a
third.
lot.
Yeah. Well.
But this is a small boat. We're going to have a small, new, and highly efficient drive. And I think it will just overpower it with an electric motor. And this is a boat that classically has a 25 horsepower outboard on it. I mean, in all reality. So we're going to overkill this one to the point of obscenity. I hope no one's hurt.
I'm wearing a life jacket.
I was picturing you as the test driver.
I'm wearing a helmet and a life jacket.
I've been spreading this heresy fairly widely. Anna Kloppenberg, from New Electric in Amsterdam, with their electric Glastron. I've been beating him up. Glastron's not really it, Anna. And he has found a boat that will be our competitor. Eventually, I think we're going to have a boat race. The jet drive guy is still going to do his fiberglass version. I'm going to do the wood. And Anna Kloppenberg at New Electric has found something called the Wright Delta, a 16-foot aluminum made at a British aircraft manufacturer that made Spitfires. And after the war, the Second World War, they had aluminum and they had Craftsman, and they made a few of these. They're called Wright Deltas. Same concept, speedster of the water. Let's take a look.
Hey Jack, hey people of EVTV. We're here at the New Electric Workshop with the Wright Delta sitting next to me. We have started this project and we will convert her much the same we did the old Glastron. There will be some differences in the drive setup that we'll talk about. But first a little bit about this boat. She's a classic. She's a little older than the Glastron, which is a 1974 from Austin, Texas. This boat is an English-made boat. 1966 is when this one was built, according to the plate. The design is called a Delta. the Ray Wright Delta. It was built by a company called Ray Wright Limited, and it is seen as the successor to a 50s model which started out as the Albatross. Now both the Albatross and the Delta are completely made of aluminum, and you'll see on the inside, I'll show you in a sec, it has the actual nameplate, Ray Wright Delta, and it's from Elo Airfield. So these boats were built at an airfield. Now how's that? This airfield was involved in building planes for the RAF, the Royal Air Force, in the Second World War. And the story goes, and you know, who would want to break a story like this? The story goes that after the war, they had a lot of, you know, high-grade aluminum left over, and no German airplanes to go after. So with the combination of the raw material, the design acumen, and the production skills that had been honed during production of all those Spitfires, they decided to build speedboats, and who can fault them? So here we have the bare bones interior, as it should be, and I'll zoom us in on Mr. Ray Wright Limited, Elo Airfield, Beccles, Suffolk, and you won't quite be able to make it out, but the boat number is 668127, I believe, and the first 66 seems to be the year indication, so that would make this a 1966. It still has the original engine, which is a 1600 cc cross-flow block. They were used in the older Lotus models, but it's also known as the Formula Ford or the Ford Kent cross-flow block, purported to produce about 84 horsepower and a max RPM of upwards of 6,500. So a slightly different beast than the B20 we took out for the Glastron conversion. Also, as you can see, there is a bell housing, but it doesn't connect to a stern drive. It connects to a direct shaft to prop setup, and the whole engine is in fact at a tilt. So we could opt to retain the bell housing and clutch setup, in which case an adapter plate would fit to the motor, or we could use the direct drive and the electronic reverse of certain motor controller packages as to our benefit rather, and lose the weight of the clutch pedal and bell housing setup. I think we have some interesting possibilities with this form factor. It has a lot of weight capacity, so we can fit it in a lot of batteries, and at the same time it really has that racing form, so it'll be more efficient than our heavier Glastron. So from New Electric and the Ray Wright Delta Speedster of the Water Project, we bid you goodbye and see you in about 2 weeks at EVCON. Looking forward. Bye-bye.
And so that's Anna Kloppenberg from Amsterdam and the Ray Wright Delta, an all aluminum
The race is
speedster
on.
of the water.
Aluminum, wood, fiberglass. We got them all.
Wood, fiberglass. Then we gotta like find a boat show.
We'll have to
with
make a boat
with
show.
a lake
Yes, I've got the perfect spot.
and do the runoff.
We will have it. It can be done.
And that would be.
We'll have a very large mill.
Who can design the fastest, coolest
Electric
boat?
We're working on it. I believe though.
This kid.
Actually,
That's who can
Just-
do it. And I don't know anything about boats, but I got some
well,
ideas.
I will tell you that even the classic wood will outshine them all from the head turning point of view. You just don't see
Oh
it.
yeah, you're
So
right.
you're
No,
gonna stop
mine will look
traffic.
best.
And
But believe it or not, strength to weight ratio. You put epoxy over wood,
it's spruced out.
it's actually lighter than fiberglass.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's lighter than aluminum though, but it'll be quieter than aluminum. That'd be like driving a Bell.
Aluminum. Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we'll do is have the runoff. So I see a 4 or 5 month thing promoting Aristocraft, my jet drive guy, Bill Ritchie, and the this would be a good showcase.
I wonder if there's any viewers out there that will inject something into the mix.
Yeah,
they just might. And we might have some boats at the show next year.
Well, we are going to have a boat panel at EVCon.
Wow.
Anna and Jeff and I, and I'm working on a couple others to talk about electric boats. I think it's a pregnant idea.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of lakes in the Midwest, you're kind of blessed over at Kentucky Lake. A lot of these smaller lakes, like Lake St. Louis up on there, severe restrictions on horsepower. But they don't really apply to electric boats.
And well, there's also the, you don't realize that how many of the hunters and the fishermen don't like the sound and the quietness and the movement. So there's going to be, there might crack a market there somewhere.
Quiet boat would be cool, but I want a little zipper. It doesn't have to do 70, but I want to get up on a plane, do 35, 40 mile an hour. And
it'll spill your martini if you go too fast. If you go too fast.
Last year, we had a contest, and we gave away $20,000 worth of components. Now, how do you have a contest and decide who wins? And so we had various sponsors, and we had a questionnaire. And we had 1,000 responses to this very detailed questionnaire.
I remember that. Yes,
and
sir.
some of the responses went 25 pages. And guess who had to read all that?
You did.
The boat designer. It was unbelievable. It took months.
I can imagine.
I never want to have another contest again about anything. We won't give away a fudge sickle.
At least not, yeah, okay. I've marked that one off. I was kind of in the back of my mind.
The guy who won it, Brandon Hollinger, is a musician in Pennsylvania, but he's like on his 4th or 5th. He's going to bring 2 here, and he really has a conversion shop now. He calls it Amp Revolt or something like that. Although I think it looks on the latest video like he's changing the name. He's putting the batteries, we awarded him, and the motor and controller and stuff in a very interesting vehicle, which is kind of how you win. It's a 1971 Austin FX1. Now you would know that as a London taxi.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's what it is.
Okay.
And this one's red and black, and it's going to be very luxurious, and he's going to use it in Pennsylvania as a, like rent out for weddings or
cool.
things like that, and totally silent, it'll be good. He's going to bring that and a Miata or something to the EVCon next week, and here's his latest update. Now again, and we're learning here. Our component sales are doing pretty good, as you know. Richard used to sell aftermarket in the automobile, and he's a little fascinated that we can put several $1,000s in a crate.
The numbers are a little
this
different.
Big.
Internal combustion parts are so much more for so much less.
So much more for so much less.
But
we're going to get there.
We're going to get there, yes.
But we got to work on it. But he, where was I going with all that? I'm lost. Let's take a look at Brandon's Austin FX1.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. We've been using short videos to document the conversion of a London taxicab over to 100% electric drive. The car will no longer rely on gas or oil for its operation. The cracked engine block and broken transmission have been removed, and the engine bay has now been prepped for a fresh coat of paint. The project came to a grinding halt, however, when I chose Electro Automotive to do my motor adapter. I ended up waiting a whopping 5 months for these crucial parts. In my previous 3 conversions, I used manual transmissions, but no clutch, as it's just not needed. This will be my first time doing a vehicle that will retain the use of a clutch. Here's a nice shot of the hub assembly that will connect the electric motor to the pilot shaft of the transmission. Now we want to make sure to have the flywheel in the right place, so we made sure to carefully record that value during disassembly.
Feel nice inside, right here, and now it's summer again. A story I told, story I made up.
So the guy who sold me the transmission did a good job stripping some of the aluminum threads. So I had some stainless steel helicoil inserts professionally installed. Once everything is mated together, I like to run the motor and make sure there's no unusual vibration or noise. Well, that's never happened before, and at super low RPMs. I can only assume that removing the ring gear from the flywheel the other week caused an enormous imbalance. Luckily, balancing a flywheel is a commonly offered service in the auto industry. We were glad to learn that the 1990 Mustang transmission seemed to line up nicely in a 1971 British car. Well, with the addition of what's called a slip yoke and some local skilled labor, this might just work out. Not so lucky with the motor mounts. They were too far forward, so I chopped them out and plan to re-weld them in a more ideal spot. In other news, I organized an informal EV show earlier this month, and we were totally flooded with curious folks. It was awesome.
Okay, there it is. That's what I was trying to
That's
remember.
interesting. That's
He
just
sent
interesting.
off his bell housing to a company in California with full payment to get an adapter made. 5 months. The guy wouldn't talk to him on the phone, wouldn't answer emails, wouldn't do anything. There are some shady players out there.
Yes. Yes.
And we're learning how bad a situation this is, and are kind of taking ever more seriously our accidental foray into becoming a trusted source for parts.
And we, yes.
Number one, I didn't know you needed one.
Yeah,
Although I've been burnt $10,000, and I'm not too sure I'm not about to get burnt again.
In my last business, which again I had the facility in the brick and mortar and was a very trusted supplier, but some people can get a hold of images and a little bit of digital and say a whole lot of things that may or may not be true. And we're here every week, and I can attest the honesty and integrity of just those parts sitting on the shelf and the batteries.
Well, Richard's done a great job. We're actually now getting mostly the right parts to the right people.
Yes,
huh?
that's part of it.
That's a big thing.
That's big, yeah. You actually, we have a system.
With me and Brain, me with Alzheimer's, him with dyslexia, that wasn't going real good.
Put all this in a box, and they might have.
I'd read him one order, he'd mail it to the wrong guy, then I'd read the same order again.
Send it twice. I cut it twice, and it was still too short.
Richard's trying to get us into some
and I need your help out there. So if you
some
have
structure and some things, so we do that a little better. Finally, Mark Busch in California sent me actually a video of him at Laguna Seca driving on the track at 40 miles an hour, this Bradley GT, and I got to asking about it. He actually has put together a video. It uses an Azure Dynamics AC24, which is not going to make it real racy on the track, but it was worse than that, a lead acid sled. And he's been through quite a thing. Actually went down to Pomona and picked up his new lithium batteries and put together a little video, the saga of the Bradley GT. And he's built all that up, and it's a neat little car. Let's take a look. Cool.
Okay, this is Evie. Hello all at EVTV land. This is my Evie. This is, her name is actually Evie. It's a Bradley, about a 1979, 1980 vintage Bradley GT2. I was drinking some beers and decided to take some pictures of my car one night, and so here she is. I'm going to open. It's got gull wing doors. Those are seat covers, but it gave me an idea of the type of interior that I want, what I want to do with the seats and as far as upholstering and that goes. That is the controller. You'll see later on that controller gets moved. This is before I acquired and replaced the lead acid batteries with lithium. And that's what this whole movie's about, is the replacement of the lithium batteries, or of the lead acid batteries to lithium. Those two little flashing lights are the directional light indicators on the inside. I don't show you much of the dashboard, but it's changed considerably anyway, so it doesn't make much difference. You'll see it later on. Okay, now we're going to the front battery box. This battery box had, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, had 6 batteries in it, and the back one had 6 batteries in it. They were 12-volt gel batteries. This thing, that's the hood right there, and you can see the aircraft clips that hold it on. The gel batteries gave me 144 volts. It's got a 3-phase AC motor, and I bought that because it was the latest technology at the time.
What we're doing is we're going to be prepping this car for lithium batteries. Now it's got a battery box down here that I had the wet cell, or not wet cell, but the gel batteries in. There's still one gel battery left. There's still one gel battery left over. Actually, I've got a DC to DC converter in.
morning, Jack. I'm chronicling our trip to Pomona. We're leaving from the Central Valley. It is 8:13 in the morning, and I'm going, and my mom is going. Say hi.
Hi there.
Right. And we're going to go pick up the lithium batteries this morning.
Drive my electric car again. Drive my electric car again. Keeping clean the air we breathe in. When you see me drive by my electric car again, just flag me down and won't you hop on in. We'll ride in my electric car and then we'll pass the stations, no oil to change, and just charge her up and go. We can drive real fast or nice and slow. We can even drive up to the snow.
Bathroom break.
Keeping clean the air as we go. Here we go. Oh yeah, we're gonna get up this mountain. Smooth sailing. You can get one. Drive your electric car again. Passing those gas stations where you've been. Simplify your life by plugging in.
Are you Keegan? Hi, Keegan. I'm Mark. I'm taking a picture, okay?
Oh, thank you.
Making it a momentous occasion. Okay. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Look at that. This is exciting. This is really exciting. Okay, off we go. This is the warehouse. Those are all batteries over there. Waiting for people. My car's a little heavier in the back than it was when I started.
Well, it's all right. Riding around in the breeze. Well, it's all right. If you live the life you please. Well, it's all right. Doing the best you can. Well, it's all right. As long as you lend a hand. You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring. Waiting for someone to tell you everything. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe a diamond ring. Well, it's alright, even if they say you're wrong. Well, it's alright. Sometimes you gotta be strong. Well, it's alright, as long as you got somewhere to lay. Well, it's alright. Every day is Judgment Day. Maybe somewhere down the road away, at the end of the line, you'll think of me and wonder where I am these days. At the end of the line, maybe somewhere down the road when somebody plays. At the end of the line, the purple haze. Well, it's alright, even when push comes to shove. Well, it's alright, if you got someone to love. Well, it's alright, everything will work out fine. Well, it's alright, we're going to the end of the line. Don't have to be ashamed of the car I drive.
Mark, good video. Welcome to the lithium side of the force and away from the dark side, the lead people.
The lead people, yes.
And now I think he's wanting to sell that car and get on to another.
The Bradley GT has a very warm spot in my heart. You remember here locally, we had a pretty prosperous Bradley GT dealer in the 70s.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And there was a pretty
I
good
wasn't
following.
here in the 70s.
Well,
I was overseas part.
well, anyhow, there was a loyal following, and it was actually a quite sporting car. And I hope there's some more of them.
No wing and stuff. Well, you might make him an offer on it. I think he's wanting to be on to the next build, and I'm seeing this more.
Would he
and more.
like to exchange some EVT time? Maybe an interview. Would that work? Would I get any money for that?
Now, what we're seeing, you're probably more familiar with the hot rod guys. They work on a car for 2 years, and then all of a sudden their car doesn't need them anymore.
That's exactly right. And they take it to the show.
They put on a few more gewgaws, take it to a couple shows, and it's like...
I go, darn, I said I wanted $40,000, and the guy gave it to me. So I let him have it. It was torn from my grasp, and they go back.
And now...
I'm going to build another one.
I'm going to build another one.
Which I knew a lot. You know, the hot rod guy goes out and he buys a few parts, he puts them on, then he buys a few more and puts them on, and next thing you know, it comes out.
I know you want an electric car. I know you can't wait for it to roll. And it is a lot of juice when it does. Yeah. However,
a little at a time.
Along the way, you're going to fall in love with the process, not just driving electric cars, but
it's so much
electric cars.
Simpler. Yes. Yeah. And
it's cleaner work than you're used to on a car, and it just gets to be a very satisfying thing. It still amazes me, Richard, that in a world of General Motors and Nissan, that I could get a little bit of a red ass at a gas station one day and go home mad and go in my garage and sweep out a place and 3 months later drive out of it in a car that runs on batteries and then use gasoline.
And you're not going back to the gas station.
No, I'm not going back to the gas station. But how, in the right world, would we be buying this gasoline and buying these cars based on a Jed Clampett technology if it's so easy that a 54-year-old guy can go in his garage wearing yellow shoes, falling down drunk, working half days, and come out in 3 months with a car?
I think the dots are going to start connecting. I think you're connecting out there faster than maybe what we're seeing.
Yeah.
It may be, I believe the term is grassroots.
The
roots grow before the blades.
And that is actually how everything happens. It's not the way it's told on TV, but it's how things really work.
And to bring up the hot rod crowd, I'm interested to see what some of the tricks are these guys have done in application of the
We're already
parts.
seeing the same guys come over. And they start off with, oh, no, I've been a V8 guy for a long time. I like vroom, vroom, vroom. And about 20 minutes in the shop back here, and they're like,
we might have to try one of these.
Where do I get them batteries? And you just hook them up end to end like that, huh? And the next thing you know, the wheels are turning. This guy's got his next build going. And he is converted in front of me in 20 minutes. And he could build a car in a third the time I can, and it look twice as good.
It's a lot less parts. And you can, I see it coming.
But some of those hot rod guys are very talented at making it look.
Exactly. Aesthetics are part of it, which is one thing I was trying to interject to the viewers, is when you're bringing your vehicle to the show, there are a lot of just very slight touches, sometimes some coloring. We did a lot with our show vehicles just by spray can painting some part ends and, some hose coverings and rearranging here and there. And you could make some things look very, very good, very simple. And I think the show element is going to have a factor in the conversion business. Just wanting to show what your electric conversion looks like.
Today's the 14th. We'll do another show next week.
Okay.
On the 21st. No show the week after that. We're going to be at DevCon, and that's not going to be feasible.
Live from EVCon. I wanted live, and I wanted my helmet, and maybe
you bet.
And I'll hold
we'll
the
get
camera.
Your copper foil.
No,
with
the
a
speaker helmet. I'm
mounted
gonna
on
put a
the
camera.
top. Yeah.
I'm gonna. If you're here,
The
we're gonna see
copper
me,
foil helmet,
and I'm gonna
cam.
have a camera on it. I received a challenge,
and stream to.
we're gonna. Well, I'll have to record, but
stream to the net.
We're gonna have copper helmet with camera. Got it. Okay.
The copper foil helmet with cam. Where's the helmet?
There it is. I combed my hair today, so I don't know if I want to put it on.
Oh, let's see what we can put together here.
Okay. No, I got to. I'll find my own. I go. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Okay. I got it.
Yeah, here's your helmet.
There's my helmet.
We'll mount the camera
We'll put the
right
camera
on
on
top
top
here.
And I'm gonna have a little mic piece so I can talk.
There you go. The copper foil helmet cam.
And then I'm gonna ask all of our attendees, what is the wildest electric conversion idea you can come up with? And see what they say. Maybe we'll
I
have
want
a
you to
little-
go around and ask each one of them why you can't just put a generator in that runs off of the motor that turns.
Well, I had it on the other day, and I was thinking, a line of alternators, see,
That's
and then
right.
a flywheel in the back that
That's
caught
right.
the wind.
There you go. Now you're talking copper
There
foil
you go.
helmet. Stay with us. We'll see you all next week.